Everyone, welcome to what I was hoping to be a live broadcast of Royal Rumble comments and thoughts, but technology is getting the best of me today. So instead, we're going to record something just for the My One Two Cents YouTube channel. Welcome if you are new here. Glad to have you. And Chad, let's talk about the 2025 Royal Rumble. Chad Smart, a friend of mine for 20 plus years, a longtime wrestling fan, and we both watched the Royal Rumble, probably in different settings and setups, because I was on the road over the weekend with some friends and ended up watching the Royal Rumble with limited sound access, but on my phone
Mhm.
from several bars in Waterloo, Illinois. But I got the gist of what was going on. But Chad, talk to me about your viewing experiences with the show.
Yeah, I watched at home without friends because, well, that's usually how I watch wrestling. And yeah, I watched the first half of the show and then got pulled away for some adult responsibilities and then finished the show late Saturday night. And I mean, I'm kind of jealous of you for not having limited audio. Um, I, I've mentioned it before. I have selective hearing when it comes to commentary. Michael Cole can talk for 3 hours and I'll catch like three words because I've just gotten so used to bad wrestling commentary that I tune it out. But and I was kind of surprised, real quick talking commentary because of the controversy, I guess, over the last few weeks since the move to Netflix. I was kind of surprised that there was no, I can't think of his name, Corey Graves. He's been allegedly demoted down to NXT, and so when Wade Barrett showed up for the commentary on the Rumble, I was a little shocked.
So were they, excuse me, was that a three-man booth the whole night then?
Yes.
Okay. Because like I said, we were going, it was a pub crawl, so we were going bar to bar. The funny thing is, my friends, one of the guys in the group is a wrestling fan, more casual than I am. The other ones have watched but aren't into it at all. But when I had my phone out and at first I was just watching it, kind of sitting there looking at my phone like this, but still engaged in the conversations and stuff. And then they're like, "Well, set it down here so we can all see it." And so all the guys in the group ended up sitting there watching it. So I'm explaining to them kind of some of the backstories and some of the things that are going on. So um, let me ask you about the start time. Here in the Midwest and the Central Time Zone specifically, the Rumble started at 5 p.m. on a Saturday. For 30 plus years, we've been used to these Sunday night pay-per-views. I'm still acclimating, I think, to the Saturday concept. And especially now when they're international and overseas, sometimes it's in the afternoon or in the morning. I like those days. This would have been fine, I think, if I would have been home and I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Um, but I do not miss, I don't think anymore, the long late nights. Because back in the day, I would take off work on Monday morning. For those who know my previous job, I got up in the middle of the night, so I would always take off because the Rumble was always on a Sunday night, and it usually didn't end until 10 or 10:30 a lot of times. So, what are your thoughts on these new-ish times and days for shows?
I enjoy it. I'm like you. I kind of like the international shows because here on the West Coast, they're usually on anywhere between 10 and noon. And so if I can get up, watch it, and then have my most of my afternoon and evenings free. Um, so I don't mind, the 3 o'clock. It was a 3 o'clock start time for this year's Rumble here, which not terrible, but also I knew it was going to go late enough that, like I said, I wouldn't be able to watch the whole thing live. So, but yeah, I much prefer a daytime after, the original WrestleMania was on at 1 p.m.
Right.
Eastern time. So I think they should have kept that. But, and I prefer a Saturday pay-per-view over a Sunday because at least, like you said, if it's a Sunday night, then you get have work the next day. Whereas if it's Saturday, you've still got part of the weekend to talk about it with friends and yeah. So I think Saturday should be the default instead of Sundays.
Well, and it seems like a lot of people over the last few years, at least, have been clamoring for Super Bowl to be moved to a Saturday,
Mm.
which like I said, I think WWE kind of struck gold moving their events to Saturdays, but
Yeah.
yeah, I guess
Well,
WrestleMania doesn't matter, and maybe some of the big four aren't going to matter because they are going to be Saturday and Sunday shows eventually. It sounds like it.
yeah, and I think a 2-day Royal Rumble actually makes probably the most sense out of any of the four, so that you can have the Rumbles on 2 different nights.
Well, let's get to it. The Women's
Hmm.
Royal Rumble, and we're not going to go minute by minute here, but
Yeah,
just some general thoughts. And I think we both said on the podcast a week or two ago that we thought Charlotte Flair, because they had announced she was coming back, that she would be the one to walk out and win this one. And lo and behold, we were right. Entrant number 27, which is the winningest number for the men's side of things. But Charlotte becomes a history maker of sorts, becoming the first female to win 2 Royal Rumble matches. And if I remember correctly, she won it back in, was it 2020?
I believe so.
And then went
That's
on
when
to
she
wrestle.
challenged Rhea Ripley for the
Yeah,
NXT title. Yeah.
yeah, an interesting twist there. So let's talk about Charlotte for a minute. I don't feel like there's been any other kind of buildup other than her getting into the Rumble. So we don't know, is she a face? Is she a heel? Who will she challenge? Is she on Raw or SmackDown? I don't think any of those questions have been established, have they?
I don't believe so. No.
I know she wore red at the Rumble. I don't
Hmm.
know if that's an indicator that she's going to go to Raw, um, or is it just because she wanted to wear red? I'm sure Nature Boy was excited and happy as a proud father. But what'd you think of the Women's Rumble overall? To me, and again, watching it kind of half-heartedly,
Yeah.
watching it but not like involved in it. To me, it felt at times that it was kind of just there. I was happy to see Trish. I think Trish did a good job. I was telling some of my friends that she is by far the oldest woman in that ring, and maybe looked uh, 20 years younger than she really
Hmm.
is. So she is in phenomenal shape and did a good job, I thought. Crowd seemed to pop. Again, I wasn't listening, but I could tell kind of by the reactions of the crowd that she got a big hit. I think she's the only, correct me if I'm wrong, she was really the only non-regular
Active member. Yeah.
roster active member, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, first, I guess I'm going to throw out a disclaimer that based on what I've read online, I'm not here to be the cantankerous old man yelling at clouds type person. I try to give honest feedback, and I think a lot of my views may go against the grain. So that's just be prepared. But again, it's not to, as we say, not trying to stir up controversy for the sake of controversy. But I have one question I wanted to ask you before, and that is, looking at this show as a whole, what makes for a good Rumble? Is it, based on who wins, based on if there's a memorable moment, based on, I think a lot of factors go into having a good match, having a good
Yeah.
Rumble match. And so for me, like the women's match, I didn't like, I'll be honest, I didn't like Charlotte winning. I hate the trope of returning superstar wins the Rumble, and then goes on to title match at WrestleMania. So I think there was a lot. I think there could have been, more wrestlers that should have won over Charlotte. And I, I think the match was just, it was fine. It was there, but there was a lot of, for me, missed opportunity. And that, falls into the category of fantasy booking versus what story is WWE going to tell moving forward that we're not aware of right now. And so, my biggest complaint with the match or fantasy booking aspect would have been, we have the return of Alexa Bliss. She's been out for over a year as well. She comes back. She's got her little doll. So it seems to be kind of the Fiend, or friend of the Fiend, Alexa Bliss. Where was Nikki Cross? Are they going to tie the Wyatt Six in with Alexa Bliss? I think that's, something that could have been acknowledged. And instead, the commentary just put over like, oh, the internet told me that Alexa Bliss wasn't going to be here, that she was having contract disputes with with management and kind of being passive aggressive towards the dirt sheets, which I don't think is, it's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I think the match itself was fine. Some interesting NXT call ups. Jordan Grace was there, which kind of expected, especially now that she is signed to WWE. Um, you know, I thought having Nikki Bella come in at number 30 was a um, interesting choice, and to have her be in the final four. Um, but I know you were excited when Nia Jackson and Nikki Bella were two of the later ones in the match. So
Yeah, two of my four Mount Rushmore most annoying females were in that Rumble and finalists. So I'm not a Nikki Bella fan, and I'm not a Nia Jax fan. And Nia Jax also has now. Not only did she eliminate the most people in this year's Rumble, but I think she's eliminated. I thought the stat I saw said 29 since 2018. So
mm,
um, an impressive feat, to say the least. But really, she is that kind of superstar that you would expect to be the one bulldozing through and
mm,
taking care of and annihilating
yeah.
the other women. So I, here's a note that I thought was interesting, and I don't
Mm,
have it in front of me, but just kind of reviewing the numbers for the Royal Rumble contest, which Chris Hagstrom, by the way, won the women's contest and is donating his prize winnings back to the Toy Drive. So thank you, Chris, for that. Um, the usually you have a couple of like quick exits from the Rumble
mm,
typically. Um, with the shortest amount of time in there was a minute 20, which to me is
mm,
kind of a long time in the Royal Rumble. And that was Maxine Dupree. And the Iron Woman was Roxana Perez at an hour, 7 minutes, and 47 seconds. But then Io Sky and Liv Morgan were all right there behind her at about a minute or an hour 7 as well. So I feel like the women had more time in the ring this time around. The men's rumble, we
yeah.
saw it kind of exit out, and yeah, which I think that's what
Mm,
makes the rumble unique is that you can build it up or empty it out or do
mm.
variations on that throughout.
Yeah, and I don't have the times in front of me, but this year it seemed like a lot of more people went over 30 minutes, where I
Mm-hmm.
think, and I think both matches seem to go longer. Normally they're right around like an hour, hour five, and this
Yeah,
felt like there was more post number 30 match action.
yeah,
So, and real quick, I will say, and I don't know how much you paid attention to it. I did like the ticker at the bottom that
I
told you
loved that.
the entrance, how many people were active, eliminated, gave stat. I thought that gave it a more sports like feel.
I was going to bring that up too, and I'm glad you did because my friends, as they were watching, because they were looking at the bottom too, and they were like,
Uh,
"Well, what?" And so, I'm like, this is the first year they've done that, or at least the first year I remember. So
mm,
that was a good touch to it. I thought I liked that as well. Kind of know, and then I feel like they also in the past hadn't popped up who got eliminated.
mm,
Where they would pop up the name icons as well. So that makes it again convenient for someone who's or watching and not really listening to the show.
yeah.
So that was a good aspect of that. But you had said what makes it for a good Rumble. I think part of it is the surprise because sometimes I do think we get disappointed in there not being enough because back in the day when we talked about this before, we had a sweet spot there at one point where you get probably three or four legends, Diesel or Kevin or Rob Van Dam or DDP or Booker T would show up in the same Rumble. Um, and this year, I think even with the women and the men, I don't think there
Mm.
was much of that going on. And we'll get to the moon stuff here in just a few minutes. But um, so again, does that make it disappointing that there aren't those surprises? Because you do want there to be. I think that's what's always made the Rumble unique to me is the fact that there's a more unpredictability factor in it, which the women this year I don't think there's so much, but when we get to the men, we'll talk more about that too. So I like the surprises. I like uh, the storytelling that goes on. I feel like there are times when and now I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but I feel like we have seen Rumbles happen before where you see either continuation of the stories, but you did hit the nail on the head with Alexa Bliss, and I didn't even think about it until now, but Nikki Cross was not. And so how will they tell that story, or where will that come from? I think it's awesome that we're in a day and age though where, could you imagine? And I know the Royal Rumble for the women is only about 7 or 8 years old, but could you have imagined the 1996 Women's Royal Rumble? They wouldn't have been able to get 30 women in part of it.
Well, and I mean, if you go back to the, I don't know, was it 2019, 2020, where it felt like half the Rumble was just returning surprises because they didn't have
Yeah.
the depth. So the women's match is on the same level as the men's match now, instead of being like 6 viable contenders and then 20, past divas coming in.
So you mentioned not being excited about Scarlett winning, and you felt maybe someone else could have. Who in your mind could have been that one?
I mean, I honestly, when it came down to Charlotte and Roxanne Perez, I wouldn't have been upset with Roxanne Perez. I think it would have been a good way to move her up to the main roster. Strap the rocket to her. I'm trying to think who else. Even Nia Jax. I know you're not a big fan, and I know she's been kind of dominant the last year, but I think she would have been a viable contender. And she's got the storyline with Tiffany Stratton of Tiffany cashing in on her. So I think, and again, my point with Charlotte winning is more one, returning from the injury. I don't like that, and we've discussed it here before. It's just like Charlotte. Charlotte is in that LOL Cena wins stage of the career where it's like, oh, if Charlotte's going to be there, she's going for the title. She's going to be the focus, and nothing personal against her, but you have to cycle in new talent, and I think that's what they need to do. But we'll see. I mean, again, we'll see where the story goes.
Do you think because you mentioned Nia Jax and Tiffany Stratton still having beef, so that is still on the table as a potential WrestleMania match? Does Charlotte challenge Rhea Ripley, who beat her 2 years ago at WrestleMania when after Rhea won the 2023 Royal?
Yeah, I would go with Tiffany just because you mentioned Rhea beating Charlotte, but Charlotte also beat Rhea at WrestleMania, so I guess they could have that rubber match going. But I think Tiffany Stratton would be the winning Io Sky. So we'll see where it goes.
It's going to be interesting to see where that ends up heading on the women's side. And I'm kind of indifferent. I kind of expected Charlotte to win, so I was not surprised. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed, but I'm not, like you said, I'm not overly excited about it either, because it's like, okay, where are they going to go? Especially since Rhea and Charlotte in the last 5 years have had 2 WrestleMania matches.
Yeah.
And I know the 2020 WrestleMania probably doesn't count as much because of the setting. It's an interesting, unique, and I guess that there would be nothing stopping Charlotte from challenging the women's championship.
True.
I kind of thought for a second Jordynne Grace may have got the rocket strapped to her. She is someone that has surprised me lately here, and then I sent you a meme this morning of her and Cody Rhodes together back at All In, the first event that they did.
Mm.
Cody kind of helping her along the way, and I didn't realize that she was that kind of young in her career, new in her career. So it would have been interesting to see, but I think the bottom line is that there's, again, with the Elimination Chamber coming up still, there's plenty of time before now, so between now and then, so we'll kind of have to wait and see where things go from there. Tag team titles were on the line. DIY challenging, or defending rather, against the Motor City Machine. I saw the last probably 3 minutes of this match. People were moving and going to play belts, and so this was 2 out of 3 falls.
Yes.
Uh, I don't know. I guess I wasn't overly excited about this because I could have continued watching, but I just took a break and stopped watching. So I don't have much of an opinion here. So I'll let.
Yeah, um, I think this was a filler match on the on the card. Nothing against the two teams. I think they could have a stellar match, but the ending with the Street Profits interfering, especially if you're doing 2 out of 3 falls, I think that was kind of unnecessary for the fall. Although, granted, it will set up the next storyline progression of the tag titles. But this is the first time the tag titles have been defended on a PLE since WrestleMania. So hopefully this year, the tag titles can be shown a little bit more care and support. But yeah, I don't think there's much to say about this match.
I will say, Masa Ciampa saw his nose this morning. That did not look good. So for sure, kudos to him. Johnny Gargano and training. Ladder match, 2 belts hanging up, a la WrestleMania 10 with Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels for the 2 Intercontinental titles. What do you think? I know you're not a big Cody fan.
I'm not a big, yeah, I have nothing personal against Cody. I just don't think he's a face. He's not championship level yet. But I find it funny. I'm curious to see reaction to this match because I feel like it was very much in a sense, an AEW match where there's a lot of stupid spots, and especially, I mean, there was one spot. I can't remember exactly what Kevin did to Cody, but it didn't look good. Cody's landing did not look good, and then the ending of the match. If you would told me Kevin Owens broke his neck, I'd say, well, yeah, obviously, look at it. But it seemed to be just a lot of dumb, stupid ladder spots, and I mean, it was a good brawl, but then, and then again, going into the fantasy booking aspect of it, Sami Zayn comes out to check on Kevin. Cody starts climbing the, the ladders, and I'm like, okay, Sami's going to somehow get
Right.
involved, or
Yeah.
even if it's not involved, he's going to say something to Cody. He's going to distract Cody for a little bit, and he just stands there. And I'm like, okay, well, what was the point then of that? So that's another wait and see situation to see how they play it off. But yeah, I don't think anybody really realistically thought Kevin Owens was going to win. But so it was a good match, but much like a lot of title matches that wrestle at Royal Rumble, predictable and more of a time filler than a match that you would get into.
Yeah, when that one spot happened and Cody went down and the referee went over and like did the hands and Cody didn't squeeze back and my friends were like, "Is he okay? That looks like." And I said, "I'm not so sure." But then when Sammy came out, I'm like, "Okay, they're this is part of the story."
Yeah.
And then that because I thought they were going to go with the same screwed over Cody and then Kevin win the championship. But
yeah, and I guess at the post show scrum, whoever was hosting it did say Cody was banged up and wouldn't be there, and I think they're playing it up as he's severely injured, but hopefully that's just for storyline purposes.
yeah, and I don't mean to sound like the old man yelling clouds like you were earlier, but as my friends and I said, I do not like ladder matches. I mean, they are throwing each other, like they are throwing each other's bodies into those ladders, and
Yeah,
that's stuff. Yes, I was sitting on pins and needles watching that, worried about injury or someone breaking their neck or getting hurt or falling, breaking the bone. And to me, the risk isn't worth the reward, especially this close to WrestleMania. So,
yeah,
good insight there. Speaking of WrestleMania, of course, the men's Royal Rumble match happened. Uh, we talked about the star-studdedness of this one. I think it kind of started off, and I missed it. I had gone to get another drink. And when I came back to the table, my friends were like, they didn't know names. They said the guy in blue his feet both hit, but they let him back in, and I'm like, what? And so I didn't realize they were talking about Penta at the time, but or I mean, I knew they were talking about Penta, but I'm they probably thought it. But then I looked and saw some people post stuff about it today. So, what's your take on that? Did both get cut?
I think they did. And, especially that early in the match, you can't really
Mhm.
call an audible.
Yeah,
I'm probably not going to see a lot of replays of that elimination, of that potential elimination,
yeah,
So, it didn't affect the ending of the match. Yeah, I know there's some alleged controversy over Drew McIntyre's elimination.
yeah.
That may be, what's that?
I was saying, yeah, I saw that too,
Yeah.
which I didn't
Okay.
understand it, but yeah,
Yeah. So I don't think Penta's elimination or non-elimination is really going to factor into anything. It's more of something that if the IWC wants to make an issue out of something that's not an issue, they have ammunition. But yeah, it's
I
fine.
found it interesting though. Penta ended up being the Iron Man. I think, and
Mm.
I didn't write it down, but I think he only went like 42 minutes,
Mm.
45 minutes top compared to, like I said, at least three of the women went an hour and 7 minutes. So interesting that the Iron Man this year was that short of a time frame. I was
Yeah.
a little surprised by that. But, obviously lots of big names in this year's Rumble: Punk, Roman Reigns, John Cena making his return. Although conspicuous by his absence, is he out injured? Solo Sikoa, I think.
Again, so this is what's the story being told? What's the story? The fact that Solo wasn't in there, which you would think he
Right.
should have been given the past year. Jacob Fatu comes in, destroys people, and then Braun Strowman comes out and easily eliminates Jacob Fatu after Jacob had just destroyed him at Saturday Night's main event. It's like,
Right.
to me, Jacob should have eliminated Braun again,
Right.
or there should have been some more of a struggle for Braun if Braun's going to eliminate it. It shouldn't just be an easy pick up and toss over the ropes. So, but yeah, I don't know why Solo wasn't there, and and even Tamatonga or Tay Leone's not the other person, but where were and I think one of them may be injured, but
Yeah, I think it was just the Usos and Jacob Fatu that were
yeah,
other than Roman.
and Roman, yeah,
From the Samoan.
and Sammy, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
So
and I'm gonna sound like a dick saying this, but wasn't. I was just kind of with it. I really thought Cena was going to win. I kind of hoped he was going to win because I had number 23, which was Cena's number. Um, I waited to the very end to buy any leftover numbers. So yeah, I was a little taken aback. But then I've read mixed reactions. People bitching about the fact that that Jey Uso wins after being destroyed the week earlier. Saturday night when they by Uso for the championship match. I don't think that bothered me so much that I feel like they're really doing something with him. I'm sure as the proud father Rick was with Charlotte, I'm sure Rikishi is just as proud and
yeah,
boastful.
he won't be complaining this week on
Yeah.
whatever podcast or radio show he does.
Yeah, so I don't know though. What do you think? I feel like this is almost like a Shinsuke Nakamura from 2018.
Yeah.
Is it going to go there? Is it going to win? Who's it going to challenge?
Yeah. And this is where I go back to, what makes a good Rumble, because it was a surprise victory. I don't know anybody that predicted it. And we've talked about how the Rumble is usually very predictable. So this was a good change. But Jey Uso, and to me, I can't remember if I said this last time on the show. And again, I'm not trying to be a dick just to be a dick, but Jey Uso to me is this generation's road dog, who has a great catchphrase. He can get the crowd excited when he comes out, but once the bell rings, it just falls flat for me, and I think, you look back at last year's WrestleMania, Jay versus Jimmy was one of the most disappointing matches on the show. So Jay going for the title at Mania doesn't excite me as a fan. And really, with Jay and Charlotte being there, I'm glad we didn't buy the $4,000 tickets to go to Vegas. But um, and you know the Rumble match itself, I felt like there was a lot of laying around by guys instead of just watching other people do their spot and then getting up and going. And it felt like it was the beginning with Ray and Penta was kind of and Carmelo and I think Chad Gable were like the workhorse group,
Right.
and then the middle was kind of like the guys that didn't really have a chance, and then you loaded up the back end with your star power, and and about halfway through the Cena Jey Uso match at the end, I'm like, oh, it's going to be Jey because it's kind of obvious that Cena, the fans are expecting Cena, and they're going to swerve. And so when they both went to the outside of the ring, like I get what they were trying to do, but it didn't work for me because it felt like slow motion fighting to make sure that they got the move and didn't, accidentally fall.
And I feel like this has been the finish to, I don't know how many, but I feel like it's second verse, same as the first, where we've seen the guys out there. I don't know if Punk and Cody did it last year or not, but it feels like we've seen it enough times that it didn't have to happen that way. But I agree. Would you been better with Cody? I'm sorry, with Cena winning?
I mean, if my choices are Cena or Jay, I probably would have gone with Cena. But again, I think it's better that Cena didn't win. And I'm glad Logan Paul didn't win. And, I just feel like, especially now that Jay's won, that he's going after Gunther. And as you said, we just saw that match on Saturday night's main event. Is that strong enough to main event WrestleMania, or will this be a, Edge versus Alberto Del Rio opening match? And let the women, one of the women's matches, main event night one.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah, I think I hope that's what they do. Again, no disrespect to Jay or Gunther, but neither one of them right now excited about seeing in that high profile event.
Yeah.
I don't think they have the star power to close out the show, but I could see Charlotte and Rhea eventually, or Charlotte and Tiffany closing out night one, Cody and whomever in the elimination chamber, or how I don't know how they're going to do that story, but whatever happens there. I do like the other thing I like about the Royal Rumble is kind of the seeds that get planted for WrestleMania. Because obviously this is full year now, road to WrestleMania type of situation. So, saw the situation with Cody and with CM Punk and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Is that a triple threat match perhaps, or are we going to get something? Again, we still need a contender for Cody as well. I don't think we're going to get Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes for the third time, but this fourth time. But there's obviously a lot of potential and good storytelling. Who did Logan? Did Logan Paul eliminate Rollins? Whoever Logan Paul eliminated.
He eliminated Punk, I believe.
Okay, well, okay. I said, AJ Styles.
AJ, yeah.
I'm like, I could see AJ Styles and Logan Paul.
Yeah.
So anyway, overall, I mean, I would probably give, and again, considering where I was watching, how I was watching, whatnot, again, it's still fun. It's the world. But I would probably say C plus if I were giving it a letter grade, because again, I'm not overly excited, but I do think it's fascinating that they did go without someone out of that. I think we had probably 4 or 5 that we thought, one of these 4 or 5 is complete.
Yeah.
So Jay, I know some people, Sam Banks, for example, had predicted Jey Uso. There were a handful I saw
Hmm.
that Jey Uso, but for overall a surprise, and whether it's a good surprise or not, I guess we'll find out. It's a
Yeah.
tournament.
Yeah, because like you said, it could be another Shinsuke Nakamura where he goes on to Mania and loses, and
Right. Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
so yeah, I'm with you. I was teetering between a B and a B minus. Like I said, there was nothing, let's say, bad on the show, but there's also I don't think I'm going to go back and ever want to rewatch this. There was no real memorable moment. I think the most, and this sounds like such a Jimmy Fallon thing, the most viral thing on the show was Icy Speed, who is apparently a person that exists in this world and was there. But there were nothing amongst the WWE wrestlers was anything, like when Logan Paul and Ricochet had the midair, and that led to, I think, them fighting later on. Like there was nothing that memorable for me in the match. But like I said, we'll see where the road to WrestleMania leads. Hopefully there aren't too many potholes. And yeah, I'm sure it'll be a good time. And again, this just goes into, I think, our fandom now, again, as people that have been watching for over 40 plus years, have we seen enough, no pun intended, Messina, but where it's hard to get excited. Whereas if we were fresh in our fandom or younger, it would be more exciting. I don't know. So that's why I don't want to sound too critical, but I'm just like, yeah, it was fine. It was good. It's like most movies I watch these days. They're fine.
Well said. Well, friend, we want to hear your opinion and thoughts as well. Leave a comment on this video and let us know what you thought of the Royal Rumble and where you think we are heading for WrestleMania. We will talk to you very soon. Again, be sure to check out the My One Two Three podcast and YouTube channel. Subscribe on both of those platforms. Check us out on social media as well. It's My One Two Three across the board. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next.